a 15-year-old girl disappears in southern Spain. Her phone reappears at the home she allegedly never returned to. Her brother ends up dead before giving the police more information. So what really happened to Amy Fitzpatrick? And is someone covering it up?
Welcome to Vanished Voices UK, your new favourite spot for curious missing persons cases, true crime stories, and in-depth investigations.
Amy Fitzpatrick is missing. A tragic story of death and disappearing evidence. Amy Fitzpatrick was an Irish girl living on the Costa del Sol with her family when she disappeared on the 1st of January 2008. On the night before her disappearance, Amy was staying at her friend Ashley's home, babysitting Ashley's little brother, and was due to walk the short distance back to her own house on the day that she vanished. She said goodbye to her friend at about 10 PM and left, but allegedly never arrived home. Her family's frantic search and the official police efforts yielded nothing. As of 2025, Amy's fate remains a mystery. This documentary will examine Amy's background, the events of that night, the early searches and investigations, the theories that have circulated, the tragic death of Amy's brother, and where the case stands today, including her family's ongoing appeals for answers. Amy Carrie Fitzpatrick was born on the 7th of February 1992 in Dublin, Ireland. She lived in the Coolock area of Dublin until about 2004 when she moved to Spain with her mother Audrey, older brother Dean, and her mum's partner Dave Mahone. Audrey Fitzpatrick, an Irish national, was estranged from Amy's father Christopher Fitzpatrick, who remained in Ireland. In Spain, the family settled into a holiday home development near Mijas. Dave Mahone is an Englishman, a former nightclub bouncer from Essex, who became a property agent on the Costa del Sol. Audrey later married Mahone after both had returned to Ireland. Amy's family life was often described as difficult. Several reports stated that she struggled to adapt to life on the Costa del Sol. A close family friend said that Amy had been bullied at school and hated Spain, always wanting to return to Ireland. In late December 2007, she was upset that a planned family trip back to Ireland was cancelled. Police noted that Amy did not have a good relationship with her stepfather and had previously gone missing for short periods by her own choice. Her friend Ashley recalled that Amy once came crying to her house, begging to stay over. Despite these troubles, Amy had no money or passport when she vanished, and it appears that she travelled on her mother's passport when moving to Spain. Amy had told her friend Ashley that her stepdad had broken her phone, so she was using a pink mobile that she had from Ireland. Audrey insisted that Amy was just a normal teenager and denied sensational claims such as diary entries about living in cardboard boxes. But family tensions and Amy's unhappiness provided the backdrop to the mystery. Amy's extended family in Ireland also took an interest. Her father Christopher Fitzpatrick was devastated by the loss of his daughter, and then later his son. Amy's aunt Christine Kenny, Christopher's sister, campaigned publicly for answers, placing petition boxes in Dublin shops and lobbying government officials. Christine later remarked that the case had been brushed aside and needed to be treated like a murder case. We will take another look at these appeals later on. Amy's last confirmed sighting was on New Year's Day 2008 at about 10 PM. As previously mentioned, she had been babysitting her friend's little brother at her friend's home in the Calypso housing complex in Mijas Costa, not too far away from her own home. That day at around 10 PM, Amy said goodbye to Ashley and walked away, intending to make the short walk home to her parents' house. She left carrying her own dirty laundry in a plastic bag and wearing clothing that she had borrowed from Ashley. This was the last time that anyone saw or heard from Amy. Amy's father, Christopher, later emphasised that she only lived just a short walk away, showing confusion on how she could go missing on such a short journey. On the 2nd of January, Ashley's mother, Debbie Rose, received a call from Audrey Fitzpatrick at around 1 p.m, asking about Amy's whereabouts. Although Amy vanished on the 1st of January, she wasn't officially reported missing until the 3rd, when her mother Audrey filed the formal report with the Guardia Civil in Alarein El Grande. Ashley, Amy's friend, believed that Amy had made it home that night. Interestingly, Amy's pink mobile phone was found at home later on, further suggesting that she had made it back, as Ashley was confident that she had seen her using it while they were babysitting, although this seems to have been disputed by Amy's mum and her partner Dave. Dave had allegedly already been driving and walking the streets searching for Amy, and friends and neighbours joined in the search. Audrey publicly appealed for help, while desperately hoping her daughter was safe. The disappearance quickly drew a large police response. Spanish media reported that by the 7th of January, over 200 civil guard officers, along with the local emergency crews and volunteers, were searching the mountainous areas around Mias for Amy. Police canvassed streets, fields, and even remote scrubland with sniffer dogs and a helicopter. But they found no trace of Amy or any struggle. A few items of clothes, which were believed to be Amy's, were found about 500 metres from her home, prompting fear, but forensic tests showed that the clothing did not belong to Amy. Investigators reported no sign of violence or abduction. One source said they searched the path between the houses, centimetre by centimetre, and saw no signs of violence at all. Even after a week of intensive searching, no clues had emerged. With no evidence, investigators initially considered that Amy might have run away, given her prior behaviour. Spanish police noted that she had gone missing voluntarily in the past, and had argued with her mother about Christmas plans. However, they acknowledged that she had no resources, and a runaway seemed unlikely. Still, the official search was scaled down after a few days due to lack of leads. The Guardia Civil asked for any tips and continued periodic checks of friends, trafficker rings and known offenders. Over the following months, the family and authorities followed various leads, but none of these efforts produced evidence of Amy's whereabouts. In August 2008, the home of the family lawyer was burglarized and police reports were stolen. Interestingly, the lawyer said how strange the burglary was, as the burglars had ignored items of value and had taken documents that were not worth any money. Also in August, Amy's home in Spain was broken into and her mother's laptop was stolen, which apparently Audrey was using to make appeal posters and to search for her daughter. Amy's pink phone was also stolen during this break-in. Amy's family and friends refused to wait passively. From the first day, they rallied neighbours, friends and volunteers. Audrey and Dave quickly organised large-scale searches of the neighbourhood, calling in relatives and local helpers. One Irish newspaper reported that hundreds of people joined an extensive search. They put up missing person posters throughout the community, including pictures of Amy, and distributed leaflets with a reward offer. In fact, by mid-2009, Audrey and Dave formally offered a €1 million reward for information about Amy's disappearance. The reward ad in newspapers and flyers drew over 100 calls in 5 days, though only a handful had useful information. Within Ireland, Amy's relatives and friends campaigned to keep attention on the case. Fundraising events were held, for example at a GAA club in Coolock, and petition boxes were placed in shops. Amy's aunt, Christine Kenny, helped organise these efforts and called on politicians to act. Amy's father, Christopher, even created a Change.org petition urging Irish and Spanish authorities to reopen the investigation. Irish Prime Minister Bertie Ahern met with Audrey and Dave in March 2008, He pledged the Irish embassy would help and arranged a meeting with Spanish police to discuss progress. Amy's friend Ashley Rose spoke in the media on her behalf and also scoured the area around her home. In interviews, Ashley described Amy as a very happy girl and pleaded for her safe return. In the immediate aftermath, she joined vigils and voiced public appeals. In 2008, she tearfully said, "If you've got her, please just let her go. Amy, please phone us and let us know you're okay." Even Amy's ex-boyfriend, William Short, gave interviews saying he was very frightened that something had happened and hoped she would come home safely. Over the years, the family's activism continued. Audrey Fitzpatrick, now Audrey Mahone, set up a Facebook page to keep Amy's story alive, and on Amy's birthdays, she held memorial vigils. In 2012, the family announced a book called Please Find My Amy, and took their search across Europe and even North Africa. In 2023 and 24, on the 15th and 16th anniversaries of the disappearance, candlelight vigils were held and family members made appeals. Christine Kenny wrote an open letter urging politicians to press for new action and continued to say that she would not rest until the truth came out. The Spanish Guardia Civil conducted the formal investigation from the moment Amy was reported missing. In the immediate aftermath, they undertook a major search operation. Over 200 Guardia Civil officers, along with the local police, firefighters, Red Cross, and volunteers, combed the countryside around Mijas for days. They tracked every lead that they could find. For instance, they investigated a white Ford Fiesta that belonged to one of Amy's friends. The car had been stolen around the time of her disappearance, and Amy was known to occasionally enter it. Alerts for the vehicle were issued, and the helicopter and ground teams searched for it. In the end, that turned out not to be related. The car was eventually found elsewhere, and this line of investigation came to nothing. The investigators reported that no physical evidence of a crime was found at the scene. They examined the route Amy would have taken home, checking under bridges, along the road, and in nearby fields. They went over that ground centimetre by centimetre and found no signs of violence, one account said. Street and shop CCTV in the area was checked, though no mention of useful footage has been reported. Forensic teams searched the landscape. The only articles that they found were generic litter and the clothing that we mentioned earlier. With no evidence of an abduction, investigators at first leaned towards the runaway theory. In public briefings, the authorities noted that Amy had previously briefly run away from her home and that she had argued with her mother the day before about being unable to visit her father in Ireland. So initially they feared that she might have fled to hide with someone or come back to Ireland on her own. They even alerted Irish police to check if she might have gone to her father's home in Dublin. However, the police finally acknowledged the weakness of the runaway theory. Amy had no money, no passport and no phone, making an unplanned flight to Ireland highly unlikely. After weeks of finding nothing, the Guardia Civil reportedly concluded that Amy's disappearance was probably not voluntary. Spanish detectives began to consider the possibility of abduction or foul play, although no suspects emerged. They interviewed all known sex offenders in the area and checked local bars and hotels. In May 2011, a Guardia Civil report noted that 3 independent witnesses had come forward claiming that they had seen Amy hours after her last confirmed sighting, sitting at the Trafalgar Bar in Calahonda's El Zoco Centre in the company of a mysterious blonde woman. Each witness described Amy as wearing the same borrowed clothes that she had on that night she vanished, and all agreed that the pair left together well past midnight. Despite these statements, the identities of the witnesses were never disclosed. No CCTV or forensic evidence was produced to corroborate their accounts, and the Guardia Civil have neither confirmed nor closed this line of inquiry. Search dogs even combed the hillsides and remote areas of Mijas for Amy's scent, but turned up nothing. Gradually, the large-scale searches were wound down. By a week after the disappearance, officials admitted that they had no clues, and the massive search was scaled back only to be reactivated periodically at family insistence. In the first few days, the police treated the case with urgency, but after that it remained unsolved. In June 2009, a man called Audrey demanding €500,000 in ransom. The conversation was recorded by the Euro Weekly News, but both the civil guard and private investigators found the caller's mobile number untraceable, as it was a prepaid mobile, or what could be called a burner phone. Spanish news showed interest in sensational leads. For example, a local TV program in 2012 aired an interview with the family's lawyer and mentioned a 2012 link between an Irish gangster and Amy's disappearance. In this report, it discussed a line of inquiry by private investigators retained by the Fitzpatrick family. Some of these private investigators have worked on the Madeleine McCann case. They were alerted via a tip on Facebook between a possible link between Amy's disappearance and Eric Lucky Wilson, a convicted Irish hitman who is serving 23 years in prison for the 2010 Riviera del Sol killing of Daniel Smith. Amy's mother was told Wilson had been overheard boasting of murdering Amy while in prison, and that Amy had been seen with an older man thought to be Wilson on the night that she vanished. However, both Spanish and Irish authorities formally ruled out Wilson after finding no corroborating evidence, and by 2016 Audrey Fitzpatrick acknowledged that the lead had been a dead end. Over the years, Amy's family and supporters have pointed to perceived shortcomings in the official response. One recurring complaint is that after the initial search efforts, the case was effectively shelved. Amy's aunt, Christine, has said that the Guardia Civil archived the case and that it needs to be upgraded to murder. In public appeals, she and others have criticised both the Spanish and Irish authorities for inactivity. For example, on the 15th anniversary of Amy's disappearance in 2023, Christine publicly told journalists that for years they have not looked at it. It needs to be upgraded to a murder investigation. Amy's dad, Christopher, in letters to politicians, lamented that he had lost both children in tragic circumstances and pleaded, "Please help us find Amy and bring her home." In Ireland, opposition politicians have raised the case in Parliament and urged ministerial support, though with limited result. Critics also note that the Guardia Civil initially treated Amy like a runaway. Detectives did not find any indication that a crime had taken place, yet Amy was a minor on a public road at night. Allegedly, hundreds of hoax tips came through on the phone, which hindered the early days of the search. In January 2008, police reported being inundated by pranksters claiming false sightings. The authorities themselves admitted the search was briefly scaled back because of the holiday season. The family felt these delays were critical, as friend Ashley Rose later stated, "They haven't done anything for years. If Amy had been Spanish, they would have done more. It's not right that they aren't still looking for her." Another point to mention, and something we've seen in other cases I've covered, is the lack of cross-border coordination. Ireland's Gardaí did not launch an independent search except initial checks to see if Amy might have flown home. The Irish government did not formally request a return of the investigation. In fact, the Irish Foreign Minister's office quietly transferred Amy's case to the Department of Justice in 2015, which limited direct government intervention. Christine Kenny said that the Irish government did nothing while Amy's case languished abroad. The family has called for a formal cold case review by Gardaí or EU authorities. As of 2025, no such review has been conducted. In summary, no investigative breakthrough has occurred, no suspect has been charged or publicly identified in Amy's case. The investigating officers have never announced a definitive conclusion. The case remains open but largely stagnant. From the family's perspective, Spanish police effectively gave up in early 2008, and only limited inquiries have happened since. Whether these are failures or simply the frustrating reality of an unsolved mystery is a matter of perspective, but it is clear that Amy's family feels that far more could have been done to solve this case. Amy's mother, father, late brother, and extended family have repeatedly appealed for information and justice. Audrey Fitzpatrick gave numerous interviews, though often refusing to blame anyone. In late 2015, she went on Irish radio pleading for fresh searches in Spain. That year, Audrey said she still had a 1% hope that Amy would be found. In 2016, shortly before the trial of Dean's killer, who was Dave Mahone, Audrey told the press that she hoped to bury Amy's belongings with her son and had accepted that Amy is most likely dead. However, Audrey continued to seek answers. On Amy's 30th birthday in 2022, she celebrated quietly and kept the Facebook page active. When pressed on theories, Audrey initially believed the Eric Lucky Wilson story, but later admitted she was hoodwinked by that. She has defended Dave Mahone against any suggestion of wrongdoing, calling any theories about his involvement BS, and instead focusing on other lines of inquiry. Amy's dad Christopher has remained involved. He helped organise petitions and has released statements expressing heartbreak. In 2015, he said, "Things will never be the same since Dave Mahone came into my children's lives," implying his distrust of Dave. In 2023, he pled to the government to bring Amy home and lay her to rest. Friends and community also voiced sorrow. Ashley Rose, who was with Amy in Mijas, made media appeals immediately after the disappearance and continued to speak up. Ashley and other friends and family of Amy laid candles and placed wreaths while demanding that police not forget Amy. In Spain, local news interviewed neighbours and mourners who lit candles each anniversary in Mijas. The family has not only appealed emotionally but also legally. They have lobbied Irish and European politicians to apply pressure. They handed letters and petitions to the Prime Minister, Justice Minister, and the European Commission. In 2023, Christine Kenny visited Leinster House with the letters and said that the case was fully known but no progress had been made. Their message remains consistent. Amy deserves the same effort that would be made for a Spanish or Irish child missing at home, and the authorities must not let her case die. Tragically, 5 years after Amy vanished, the Fitzpatrick family suffered another loss. In May 2013, Amy's brother Dean was fatally stabbed in Dublin by his stepfather Dave. Dean was 23 and the father of a young son. The incident occurred in Dean's apartment during an alleged argument over a water bottle. Mahone claimed that Dean accidentally stabbed himself with a kitchen knife that was in his pocket during the struggle between the two. However, a jury did not accept Mahone's account. The Irish Mirror via the Olive Press reported that during Dave's trial in April 2016, a friend of Mahone's named Carl O'Toole testified that he had seen photos of Amy scattered across the floor of Mahone's flat on the night that Dean was killed. In May, the Dublin court found Dave Mahone not guilty of murder but of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison. The court noted the death was a tragedy for all involved. Despite the 7-year sentence, Mahone was released after serving 5 years, including remission for good behaviour. He walked free from Wheatfield Prison in July 2021. Interestingly, in the weeks before his death, Dean Fitzpatrick began opening up to his father Christopher about information he believed could be crucial to solving Amy's disappearance. According to Christopher, Dean was talking more about his sister and loosening up in the last week and a half before his life was taken. This has led to speculation that Dean may have been preparing to pass on new leads to the Gardaí or even name a suspect, only for his untimely death to cut off that possibility. The timing of Dean's increasing willingness to talk about Amy and his sudden death raises troubling unanswered questions. Could his death have prevented potential progress in the investigation into Amy's disappearance? Did his information have anything to do with Dave? Is that why he accidentally fell on a knife that Dave was holding? This event deeply affected Amy's family. Her mother Audrey was hospitalised with anxiety and did not attend Dean's funeral. The father Christopher said losing both children was the worst thing and echoed that his family life was forever changed since Mahone came in. Allegedly, investigators did look into whether Dean's death had any connection to Amy's case, but found none. Officially, the two tragedies were treated as separate incidents. It seems worth mentioning that Dave Mahone was charged with assault on a 70-year-old man named Mr. Fahey approximately a month after being released from prison for the manslaughter of his wife's child. The alleged assault occurred on the 26th of August 2021 during a barbecue at Mr. Fahey's home in Carrick-on-Sharon, County Leitrim. Mahone admitted to headbutting Mr. Fahey, but claimed he acted in self-defense. The case was delayed multiple times before finally going to trial in early 2025. Dave Mahone has now been acquitted of the assault charge related to the incident involving the pensioner. The trial concluded with a jury acquittal due to the unavailability of key witnesses, including the alleged victim. Over the years, many theories have been proposed about what might have happened to Amy Fitzpatrick. We can group the main theories into a few categories, evaluating each with the evidence available. As previously mentioned, runaway or voluntary disappearance was initially the Guardia Civil's leading hypothesis. They noted Amy's past brief runaways and family strife. If Amy was unhappy and impulsive, some thought she might have left town or hidden out. She had previously disappeared for a short time and confided of hating Spain. Police and family acknowledged that she had been upset about the cancelled island trip. However, Amy had no means to run away. She had no ID, no phone, no money, and all her belongings except her clothes on her were left at home. Her friends and family say she would never have walked off into the night without telling them. She even pleaded to stay at Ashley's that night. By all accounts, she was not prepared or equipped. Moreover, no shred of evidence has ever surfaced to support her being alive on her own after that night. Investigators eventually judged that the lack of any footprint or trail in the environment made the runaway explanation unlikely. Some speculate that Amy might have had an accident, for instance a fall or being struck by a car and left unnoticed. In principle, a remote accident on a dark country road could leave no witnesses. However, the Guardia Civil searched the entire stretch she would have walked and found nothing. No shoes, no clothing, no evidence of a crash. The terrain was near housing and frequented by people. An accident would likely have been found. Spanish press did not report any discovered remains. This theory has no clear evidence and is not commonly cited. Given the absence of evidence that Amy left on her own, one theory is that she was snatched by criminals. At first, the family and police did not rule out kidnapping by a stranger or a paedophile ring. In January 2008, the Guardia Civil even stated that they were checking local sex offenders and possible traffickers. Ashley's mother later expressed the fear that traffickers could target a white teen with blue eyes like Amy. Stranger abduction is always a considered risk. Although the witness reports from the bar have not been verified or corroborated by the police, they surely remain quite strong evidence as there were multiple similar reports. Amy was allegedly seen with a blonde woman in the bar. As we have seen before, most prominently in the case of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, women are often sent to pick up victims of trafficking. This seems to be a widely used tactic in drawing young girls out of safety into areas where they can be trafficked. However, there is no evidence of any vehicle or person who intercepted her, no witnesses saw Amy picked up, and no ransom, legitimate or not, followed immediately after. The 2009 ransom call was widely believed to be a hoax. In the months after Amy's disappearance, a handful of unverified tips placed her far beyond Spain's borders. On the 5th of September 2008, the Irish Examiner reported that local diplomats in Dublin were investigating rumours of sightings as far away as Morocco and Mexico, though none of these leads ever yielded confirmed traces of Amy or her whereabouts. Subsequent appeals have produced similar overseas tips, with vague accounts of a girl matching Amy's description in North Africa and Central America, but no corroborating evidence such as photos, travel records or credible eyewitness testimony has emerged to substantiate any of these overseas sightings. Spanish authorities declined to publicly suggest any proven abductor. In summary, while abduction cannot be ruled out, it remains purely hypothetical with no direct proof. As already discussed, it was reported in some Irish media that notorious Irish gangster Eric Lucky Wilson had murdered Amy. The story claimed that Amy was seen with an older man that night, and the family even thought it was possible for a time. This theory was largely based on second-hand claims. No body was found, and no official evidence linked Wilson to Amy. Audrey Fitzpatrick herself admitted that it was a dead end. Wilson was in prison by 2012, and investigators never charged him in Amy's case. From the beginning, some wondered about Amy's stepfather, Dave Mahone. He was one of the first people who went to search, and he later committed an awful, violent crime. As we've discussed previously, Dave Mahone later killed Amy's brother Dean, showing he was capable of violence. He was imprisoned for manslaughter, stating that he had done it by accident. Amy had said that she felt her home life was sad, and often argued with him, and as we already heard, Ashley said that he had broken her phone. While possibly a fairly insignificant action, it does seem a bit worrying to me. Amy's father Christopher and aunt Christine have hinted at suspicion, saying their family was never the same after Mahone came into their lives. However, the Guardia Civil never publicly named Mahone or Audrey as suspects. They stated from the start that Amy left voluntarily, which implicitly excluded foul play by a family member, but as the Spanish police later changed their theory, could this initial belief have hampered the investigation and given Dave more time to hide evidence? Mahone has consistently denied involvement, and Audrey has defended him. There is apparently no forensic or witness evidence linking him to Amy's disappearance. The only evidence for this theory is circumstantial: Mahone's later actions, such as killing Amy's brother, and the obvious tension at home. Another strange occurrence, I would argue, is the phone turning up at Amy's home. If she had it on her while she was with her friend Ashley, how did the phone then turn up at the house without anyone seeing her return, and why would she just leave the phone, not her bag of dirty clothes? There's also the strange break-ins. Why would a burglar break into a lawyer's house to steal documents about Amy's case? And why would they take an old phone and a laptop, but leave so many other valuables left untouched? In analysing these theories, it is clear that each has its own problems. Running away is undermined by Amy's lack of personal effects. Her abduction has no trail. The Lucky Wilson theory seems to have been disproven, and the stepfather theory lacks solid proof, and Amy's mum seems to have no suspicion against him. But would that be telling? She married Dave after he got out of prison for killing her son, so some may say there's something odd going on. At this point, no single theory offers a strong evidence-backed answer. The family themselves say they cannot rule out anyone and keep an open mind. Investigators likewise have not committed to any conclusion. Every clue or rumour seems to raise as many questions as it answers. After 17 years, the disappearance of Amy Fitzpatrick is still surrounded by baffling questions. The most fundamental remains: where is Amy? Where are her remains? If Amy is dead, no body or remains have been found. Despite searches in the scrubland, rivers, and every conceivable hiding place, nothing has emerged. That leaves open whether she could have perished in an unknown location without discovery. Why was there no CCTV or phone trace? Even though Amy disappeared while walking home on a residential street in Calypso, Mijas Costa, there was virtually no public CCTV covering her route on New Year's Day in 2008. Spain's privacy laws typically restricted residential homeowners from filming public roads, and most community-installed cameras were confined to private or gated communal spaces, not public streets. At the time, the Costa del Sol had a relatively low number of public surveillance systems, and authorities later admitted that they found no CCTV footage to help trace Amy's movements after leaving her friend's house. Amy's pink Nokia mobile phone plays a central but unresolved role in the case. Friend Ashley Rose insists that Amy had the phone with her the night that she disappeared. Amy had used it in Ashley's home to look up her mother's number, despite the phone having no credit. However, Audrey Fitzpatrick maintains that the phone stayed at home, and according to the Irish Independent, Audrey showed the same phone during an appearance on the Late Late Show in May 2008, reinforcing her belief it had never left the house. We discussed the break-in at the Fitzpatrick family home. Allegedly, the phone was stolen along with the laptop. There is no public record that the Guardia Civil conducted a formal forensic examination of the phone or used its data in the official investigation, even though both family versions of events assumed it had either stayed at home or been with Amy. The lack of clarity over whether police analysed phone logs or contents remains a notable gap in the official record. What about the ransom demand? Who made that phone call in 2009? The Gardaí and Guardia Civil traced it to a burner phone with no owner. Was it a hoax by a prankster, or someone who may have been holding Amy captive? As of now, it's completely unknown. Why did the witness statements at the Trafalgar Bar lead nowhere? Multiple statements suggest that Amy was there with a woman. Who is that woman, and why wouldn't she come forward if she had nothing to hide? How did the authorities rule out those sightings if they did? Why has there been no progress in Spain? The family keeps asking why the Spanish case files seem archived. Unlike high-profile local cases, there's been no public move by the Guardia Civil to reopen or intensify the investigation. Are there unidentified suspects who have not been questioned? In 2024, Spanish media even aired an interview with the family's lawyer that included ominous statements, including him joking about the reward money, which raises questions about the seriousness of the search. Are there any forensic leads? The break-in at the lawyer's home in 2008 suggests someone may have tampered with the investigation. Investigators have never commented on that burglary publicly. Is Amy alive or dead? No one knows. Audrey Fitzpatrick has said that she accepted Amy as likely dead, but legally Amy is still missing. Under Irish law, a missing person who's missing 7 years can be presumed dead, and indeed Ireland's High Court granted a presumption of death for Amy in 2015 with a view to probate. Her family held a funeral service for her in absentia. Whether she is alive under a new identity somewhere or died clandestinely, no evidence has turned up. Did Dean have information about Amy's disappearance, and is that why he is now dead? Amy's mum believes that Dave had nothing to do with Amy vanishing, but she also then seemed to forgive him for killing her son. Amy's dad Christopher seems to believe he was about to give more information about her disappearance, but if true, that information has now gone to the grave with Dean. These unanswered questions are just a few examples of the gaps in the investigation. It seems like gaps may have been created by someone or some people trying to hide their tracks. The alleged theft of the phone, laptop and documents on Amy's case would be extremely damaging to those trying to solve it. On the other hand, it seems convenient that potentially very important evidence has been taken when the documents and phone likely have little to no monetary value. As of 2025, no new official developments have been announced in Amy Fitzpatrick's case. The Guardia Civil has not made any public statements or arrests, and the investigation is generally considered cold. The case remains open, but there are few signs of active inquiry. Spanish news outlets like Sur or Malaga Hoy have occasionally revisited the story on anniversaries, mostly quoting the family's appeals. The Spanish missing person hotline still lists Amy Fitzpatrick as missing, with a photo asking for information. In Ireland, the case has periodically drawn attention. Politicians from some parties have raised it in the Irish Parliament and written to the Deputy PM urging that the case be re-investigated. The official response so far has been limited. The Irish government's stand is that the case is primarily in the hands of the Spanish authorities. However, Ireland's cold case units have not formally reopened their file or launched a parallel inquiry. Amy's family and supporters, including victims' advocacy groups, continue to call for cross-border cold case reviews, ideally with EU support. Amy would be 33 years old today. Her family still desperately wants answers. If anyone has even the smallest piece of information, a memory of seeing something, a rumour they overheard, an acquaintance who acted strangely around that time, they are asked to contact the authorities. In Ireland, tips can go to any Gardaí station. In Spain, call the Guardia Civil. Families of missing persons know that even after years, a new clue can break the case. Please, if you know anything about Amy Fitzpatrick, come forward. Amy Fitzpatrick vanished as a teenager and was never found. The only thing we know for certain is that she left her friend's house on a winter night in 2008 and disappeared from the face of the earth. Until Amy's fate is discovered, her case is a call to the public and to investigators to keep looking, keep asking, and do not let her disappearance fade into silence. The Irish government and the Spanish Guardia Civil must answer how a child can vanish without a trace, and they should have to explain why they have not done more to resolve this case. Until then, it is the responsibility of us all to share her story and urge anyone with information to come forward. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, every missing person deserves to be found. Like, comment, and subscribe to see more new and cold missing persons cases from the UK.